And thanks for watching tonight. 3 weeks after adjourning without a budget deal, Minnesota's legislative leaders have finally reached an agreement.
That means a special session will start at 10 Monday morning, allowing time for lawmakers from around the state to return to the Capitol. While they're constitutionally required to gavel out on the third Monday in May to avoid a government shutdown, they also are required to set a state budget by July 1st. Aaron Stuvey reports on what we can expect on Monday.
Legislative working groups have been drafting these bills since the end of the regular session. And after weeks of detailed and sometimes tense deliberation, each of the 12 working groups has agreed to a compromise. Each bill needs enough support from both sides to pass a tied Minnesota House and a Senate with a slim DFL majority. The House DFL and GOP, as well as the Senate DFL, have been the biggest players in this budget discussion. While those caucuses are the only ones needed to pass bills with a simple majority, a special session gives some additional power to the one minority in the legislature, Senate Republicans. In order to expedite the lawmaking process in a special session, both bodies must vote to, quote, suspend the rules. That requires a supermajority, meaning at least a handful of Senate Republicans need to vote for such a measure. This agreement is notably signed by Senate Minority Leader Mark Johnson. Johnson's signature was not on the initial budget compromise that was released shortly before the session adjourned last month. In a statement, Johnson said he's, quote, committed to an orderly conclusion to the session. Meanwhile, Governor Tim Walz says, quote, all sides had to make concessions in order to reach a compromise. And Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy called the agreement a, quote, stable budget before we reach the brink of a damaging government shutdown. As for what we can expect Monday, with all 4 signatures from Minnesota top legislative leaders, it's likely we could see a budget pass and avoid a shutdown. As for the exact terms of the budget agreement, we'll learn more Monday.
We will have continued coverage from the Capitol on Monday as the legislature holds its special session.